welcome to the Linux Power Podcast. And I'm here with with Edward Williams.
How you doing?
All right, there we go. And that's a little bit of a long intro, but not too bad. Actually, it wasn't long. We cut off just right at the right time. So today we're going to actually talk about basically how we got into Linux. And this is kind of like a general overview on who we are, what we're doing, why we're doing Linux. What is Linux? Actually, what is Linux?
Well, in short, Linux is an operating system much like Windows or Mac. It's one that not a lot of people have heard of, but almost everyone has used at one time or another. It's an operating system that has pretty much all the tools you would need upon installing it. You don't necessarily have to go out and buy other programs. Everything is just kind of there.
Well, yeah, and Linux is what they call open source, which is basically the source code is available for anybody to actually look at and review, edit, modify, and change, actually install on their system. And it's free. So basically, when you download Linux, which could be one of, 2,000 different distributions, you own it. It's yours. You can change it. You can modify it. But there is a little thing in the licensing agreement. Basically, you need to contribute back into the community if you make any changes to any basically software. But I do believe there is an option where you can actually, you can make proprietary coding as well, but it would be commercial. So, I mean, it's an operating system. So anyhow, so Edward, you've been into, how many years have you been using Linux?
I've been using Linux for approximately 11 years. I got into it right after I got into high school. One of my teachers was actually using Linux, and I was interested in it, and what's that? I've never seen Windows customized like that. And he said, well, no, that's because this isn't Windows, this is Linux, this isn't Windows. And I kept that in the back of my head and thought it looked neat. And eventually I saw Linux distributions at a commercial place that I enjoyed shopping. And I picked one of those up and tried it. And shortly after that, I got the internet and branched out and tried many more distributions and just kept going from there. I haven't really looked back to the Windows world for my general computer usage. Since then, it's all been Linux.
Yeah, I got into Linux, basically, I think it's been for 15 years now. I think I started in 1997, and I bought Linux distribution called Mandrake. I think it's like 5.2. I'd have to go back in my disk, I'm not even sure. It didn't quite exactly run right with my AMD, which I had at that time, but I went ahead and about a year later, I tried it again, and I actually got it to install. And I was quite impressed with it, but at that time, the actual Linux distribution, there wasn't a lot for it. There wasn't a lot of stuff out there, but it's unlike today. There's tons of applications out there.
Well, yeah, I remember when I first started, it was Mandrake Standard Edition 8.1, and I really enjoyed the Linux aspect of it. However, to me, I wanted to learn more, and I went over to Slackware from there, and there was a lot of learning to be done, and it was something to say, I've got DVDs working on my machine. You had to do all of that yourself back in the day, and now with things like VLC and stuff like that, all the libraries are there for you. Everything's there for you. It's not something that a front-end user needs to worry about, whereas it used to be that a front-end user needed to worry about simple things like, is my DVD going to run? How do I run this hardware? And things like that. And that has moved forward so much.
Yeah, and the unique thing about Linux is the fact that it is an actual community. So there's a group of basically software developers that are out there coding away, volunteering their time, and tossing their code into different programs out there, which is really...
It's not only their code, though. It's their time coding, but a lot of the times, these people that work on getting the front end working for all the users, they'll do support on it as well. They love the product so much.
That's true, and Linux is just a fantastic OS. So if anybody's actually interested in trying out Linux, you should check out linuxpower.wordpress.com, or basically just type Linux in a search engine, and you'll see all kinds of stuff. Now, as far as different distributions out there, there's a few of my favorites right now. One of the best ones I've seen so far, starting out for what I'd say a newbie or a new user. I shouldn't say newbie. Linux Mageia, which is it's actually a split from Mandriva, and this distribution is actually doing quite well, and it's fairly easy to use for, I'd say, for your new user. I don't know, what do you think about that, Ed?
I would say my opinions of Mageia being a power user, but also thinking in application to a standard desktop user, because I do deal with them a lot. Like, I have my mom set up, and I've set her up with Mageia, and she finds it quite easy. So really, you have to go by what the people around you that are less technical say about the product, and if they like it, they like it. And it's the one that I've found where me wanting to customize things back end, it works fairly well, and it works excellent on the front end.
Right. It seems to be very streamlined in a lot of ways. I do like the fact that the actual, the way you load in the program and the way it's connected with actually, it's with all the security settings. It's all pretty much in one program. And it's pretty handy.
All the configuration of the system itself is in one area, which, in all honesty, some distributions are lacking in that area. Their tools are all over the place. Mageia brings that all together, and Mandrake-based distributions, Mandriva-based distributions, I should say, bring all of those together and make it easier to manage your machine.
That's true, and don't forget PCBS. What is it? PC Linux is also another. I believe it was a fork off of.
XLS.
Yeah.
It was also a fork of Mandriva, and it's a rolling release distribution though, so it's possible that it could be less stable than a distribution that does not use rolling release dates and uses a scheduled release date instead. Those can be more stable because sometimes you'll have a package that's put out and it's not quite right yet, and well, they got to fix the bugs to get your system working. Whereas everything's been thoroughly tested on a system that comes out with scheduled releases.
Right, and how many distributions are actually out there that have these different changes, like rolling releases?
Rolling release distributions are few and far between. There's PC Linux OS, Arch Linux, a few others as well. There's some source-based distributions that do that, but they take mostly from upstream and are more difficult for the user to use. They're not something that most users would be using.
No, that's true. Yeah, and I don't know. The neat thing about Linux is the fact that no matter what distribution you get a hold of, you're going to get pretty much a working system. But choosing the right Linux distribution might be a little daunting for some people. And that's
it's a perplexing process. And I mean, even I've tried all of them out there. I try them, and even I can't find one